everybody. My name is Zina, but I think I'd met most of you, if not all of you, before. So I'll do a really quick introduction to me. I'm your host for tonight. This workshop is about how to conquer chronic tiredness, which I'm so excited about, and I can definitely do with the tips for this. So a little bit about me. I'm a mompreneur, mentor and coach. I help mums in business to start, create, grow and scale their businesses towards success. And I help them to do it authentically and unapologetically as possible. So in a nutshell, that's what I do. I'm really excited to introduce Kaushalya UK as a platform to anybody that may be watching on repeat and is new to the platform, because I know all of you guys have been on this platform before. So Kaushalya UK is a registered not-for-profit community organisation which works to empower and uplift women, and it's growing organically in leaps and bounds under the dynamic leadership of its founder and CEO, Ms. Ritu Sharma. She's dedicated her life to bringing women of this world to find their own power and true worth. So over to Ritu for a very quick introduction, and hello.
Hello, very good evening, everyone. I'm Ritu Sharma, and Kaushalya UK basically is a women empowering organization that came into being simply because what I noticed is that already there are so many systems and organizations in place that are doing some fantastic work around looking after women, giving them a little nudge or a push. However, there are lots and lots of gaps. And us women, we are dynamic, we are vibrant, we are full of energy, although this workshop is going to tell us how can we stay energetic. But we do our best. And many a times we are achievers and sometimes we are overachievers. Whichever platform we're at, wherever we are at on the spectrum, the thing is we all need a little push every now and then. And the work that we do through Kaushalya UK and through our wonderful volunteers like Zina herself and Carol, who is also present on this call today, we tend to do our best to give that little nudge, little support, helping hand wherever we can, in whatever way possibly we can. I'm very pleased and I'm very grateful that tonight you're all here. And I'm very grateful to our guest speaker tonight as well, our facilitator, who's agreed to do this great workshop for us, which Zina just said as well, that we all need. So I'll give it back. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Ritu. A big, massive welcome to our amazing speaker today, LANA. LANA WALSH is a sleep and insomnia expert. And having been through quite some incredible journey herself of a decade-long fight to sleep through the night, I actually had the pleasure of listening to Lana talk in the Men Are From Mars event not too long ago. So I am super excited for her to share more of her wisdom with all of us and all of you guys here today. Before I hand it over to Lana, I will request that all questions are left till the end, make a note of them, unless obviously interaction is requested by the speaker, which is Lana. So yeah, your questions are important to us. So if it's not the right time to ask during Lana's workshop, then please do make a note of them and ask them at the end, because we will get round and answer as many as we possibly can. And if they are pressing, please just pop them in the chat and we'll get round to them as soon as we can. So over to you, Lana.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you guys having me here today. I'm just going to share my screen. For those of you who did attend the last event, you might hear some similar information tonight. But I'm also going to share a whole bunch of new stuff as well. Oh, and can we just have the mute, everybody mute themselves, please? Thank you. All right, this is interactive session. So I'm going to be asking questions. So I want you to make sure you have your chat open so that you can answer my questions. We're also going to do an online survey. We're going to have online polling. So be prepared to participate in this presentation. So this is how to conquer chronic tiredness. because chronic tiredness has become an epidemic in the world. So let me ask you, have you ever done a presentation and had somebody fall asleep on you like this guy, right? Type a yes in the chat. That's happened to me. Did you feel like a horrible speaker, like you had no idea what you were doing up there, that you must be the most boring person in the world? Well, I'm sure that's what Premier Ralph Klein thought when I fell asleep in a meeting with him. So the Premier is the leader of our province. And when I was 21 years old, I was president of my student association, and I was invited to be part of a delegation of student presidents to talk to the Premier about cutbacks to education. And I remember this meeting was, 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It was kind of dragging on, and I was trying to be engaged and listen and participate in this meeting, but I couldn't, because I was nodding off in a meeting with the Premier. Now, oh my God, you guys, it was so embarrassing. I mean, now I can laugh about it. Now it's funny to tell this story over and over again, but it was so embarrassing and disappointing, frustrating to be falling asleep. So type a me in the chat if you have fallen asleep in a meeting. Me, right? Especially mid-afternoon. Here's the thing, you might be a little embarrassed to admit it, but the thing is, it's probably not your fault, because 100% of people have reduced alertness and energy in the afternoon. It doesn't matter how good of sleep you got. It's a natural part of our circadian rhythm that our energy level drops through the afternoon. And here's the tip for sleep, for this dip in the afternoon. Most people reach for coffee, but coffee can actually affect your sleep. Caffeine can take up to 12 hours to metabolize. And so that can affect your sleep if you're drinking it at 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So instead of reaching for the cup of coffee when you feel that lull happening mid-afternoon, get 10 to 15 minutes of physical activity. And especially if you can go outside where the sun is nice and bright, that brightness in the eyes helps rejuvenate you. And 10 to 15 minutes of exercise can be just as effective at boosting energy as a cup of coffee. And it actually helps your sleep, which I'm going to talk about at the very end of this presentation. And you know what the worst part is about falling asleep in a meeting is when your eyes pop open, you're like a deer in the headlights and you think, oh my God, I just fell asleep in this meeting. You scan the room. Did anybody see me? I hope nobody saw that. I just can't stand it. But people can't not see your head bobbing up and down, right? You just can't not notice it. And every time, sure enough, somebody was always staring at me and they were probably judging me, right? Oh, Lana, you're probably out drinking last night, 21-year-old kid. What other reason could I have for falling asleep in a meeting? But the truth was, I had been having trouble sleeping for 8 or 9 years by then. I remember tossing and turning so much at night, being wrapped in my blankets and my pajamas so tight. It was like a boa constrictor was squeezing the life out of me, and I'd have to get out of bed and rearrange everything so I could go back to sleep. And to this day, I wake up when I roll over just to make sure I don't have anything wrapped around me that bothers me so much. My parents thought, typical teenager, grumpy and irritable, sleeping in, didn't want to get up and go to school, staying up too late. And people would ask me, Lana, how are you doing? And I'd say, I'm tired. I'm tired. I was always tired. And people would be like, yeah, I'm tired too. Because we as a society have this belief that being an adult is about being tired, telling people how tired you are, and listening to other people tell you how tired they are, right? Have you thought, said, or heard someone else say, I'm tired in the last week? Type yes in the chat if you have Thought, said, heard. I'm tired. Yes. Right? I mean, everybody is tired. Yeah. Funny how you put it in these words. I know I found this meme in December. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so using that. It's great. It's so many people are tired. We feel like getting less sleep, or we've been brainwashed to believe getting less sleep makes us more productive, or we have to get up earlier, be the first one to the office to be the most successful we can be. And as you're going to find out later in this presentation, that's absolutely untrue. But because of this belief, we just put up with it. We think this is normal. Everybody has trouble sleeping. Everybody's tired. This must be the way it's supposed to be. I read recently 60% of people are never asked about the quality of their sleep by their doctor. And yet, millions of people could have a sleep disorder, and nobody is addressing it. Experts have diagnosed over 80 different sleep disorders. These are insomnia, sleep apnea, restless leg syndrome are the main ones. The rest of them are quite rare. But we have this belief that being tired is normal, that we don't even consider the chance that we might have something actually wrong. And some of these sleep disorders, like sleep apnea and restless leg syndrome, I have restless leg syndrome. That's why I couldn't sleep as a kid. Some of them are a little bit hidden. You don't realize that they're keeping you awake at night. Often people with sleep apnea don't even know that they're stopping breathing at night. It's their loved one that says, you know, you stop breathing when you're sleeping. That's a problem. But because of this belief, we do nothing. Now, because I am the insomnia expert, I am going to talk briefly about insomnia and what that is, because it's the most misunderstood and underdiagnosed sleep disorder. And in fact, I was never diagnosed with insomnia, despite the fact that I've been to see a sleep expert, I've been sleep tested, and I spent a decade on medication. And in that decade, I saw a doctor every year to get a refill of my prescription, and they never asked me about my sleep. It was just an automatic, here's a year's worth of pills. Oh, maybe we should increase your dose. Here you go. There was never any conversation about insomnia. So what is insomnia? Well, the simple definition is taking an hour or more to go to sleep or go back to sleep after waking during the night. Now, you can have trouble going to sleep or staying asleep. You can have both at the same time. It can come and go based on what's going on in your life, typically stress. And that doesn't mean you have a problem with insomnia. That just means you're having a bad night. So based on that definition, type me in the chat if you have had a night of insomnia at some point in your life. And I can almost guarantee 100% of people can say yes to that, can say me, because stress and anxiety are the number one reasons people can't sleep. And we've all experienced enough stress in our life. So yeah, not that long ago. Yeah, exactly. When we're stressed, that's another thing I'm going to give away. I'm going to give away a free download for you at the end of this presentation to help you with stress. Now, when it is problematic, is if it's happening 3 or more times per week, and it's been going on for more than a few months, that's when it falls under the chronic definition of insomnia. And then when it starts to affect your day-to-day life. So if you start to perceive a detrimental consequence, like you feel irritable, stressed, anxious, frustrated, unmotivated, unproductive, listless, because of your bad sleep, that's when it becomes the clinical diagnosis. And that's when it's really problematic. That's when you really want to say, maybe I should do something about it. Okay, so do you have insomnia? Here's my sleep archetype quiz. It's only 9 questions. There's no sign up to take this quiz. So if you want to type this link in the chat, I'll pop the link in the chat and you can open it up or type it into your phone if you want. And you can take the quiz to find out if you have insomnia. And I'm going to put up the next slide to get your answers so you don't have to pop them in the chat. I'll give you a couple of minutes to do that. All right, when you finish the survey and you get your result, then I want you to go to this website, menti, menti.com, and type in this code and put in your answer so we can see the poll, see how many people are each in the room. For those of you watching the replay, I'm sorry you can't participate in the polls, but you can see how it happened live, but you can still fill out the survey and find out your sleep archetype for yourself. Oh, thanks for coming. I appreciate it. So, okay, we got our poll results coming in. So yeah, if you finished a Sleeping Beauty, awesome. Yeah. So I'm going to talk about these different sleep archetypes. If you have a minute to pop it in the poll, that would be great. So Sleeping Beauty, obviously, like the book character, no problem sleeping. Garfield, just like the comic book character, occasionally hates Mondays, you know, maybe 1 or 2 days a week, have some trouble sleeping on the mild to moderate non-clinical insomnia. Sleepy dwarf, just like Sleepy, tired all the time. You know, multiple days a week having trouble sleeping. It's starting to affect day-to-day life. This is the moderate to severe clinical insomnia. Flipper, like the dolphin, sleeping with half the brain on to be alert to predators. These are probably mostly 5 or more days per week having trouble sleeping, severely affecting day-to-day life. They're in the severe clinical insomnia category. So the first step to conquering chronic tiredness, let's acknowledge that this is actually a problem. It's the first step in conquering any problem, accept that it is a problem and that it's something that you want to fix. So let's just resign that membership to the Chronic Tiredness Club. Let's finally get to this. I'm tired of being tired and talking about being tired. Oh, the poll link, that's okay, Charlene. It's a special website that you have to go to. So there'll be another one coming up in a bit that you can answer a different question. So we really want to start saying, it's not normal to be tired all the time. For those good sleepers out there like Carol, who can probably say, I'm tired occasionally, but not on a regular basis. That's what we want to get to. And so many people just put up with their chronic tiredness because they, one, don't realize that it's actually a problem. And then two, don't know that there could be a solution for them. So I tell you a little story about one of my clients. He had severe anxiety, generalized anxiety, and he was seeing a psychologist who had him on 3 different types of anti-anxiety drugs. And then he had trouble sleeping. So then she put him on some sleeping pills. And he would, a couple hours before bed, he would start to get anxious about his sleep. So he'd take an anti-anxiety med. And then at bedtime, he would take a sleeping pill. And then he'd wake up in the middle of the night, toss and turn, and get anxious and have more anti-anxiety drugs and more sleeping pills. And his anxiety about his sleep was getting so out of control, he was having a hard time functioning. He actually took a leave from work and moved in with his parents because he couldn't function day to day. And I happened to be doing a presentation for his dad, and his dad said, Lana, you have to talk to my son. I don't know what to do, and I'm really worried for him. 15 minutes after getting off the call with me, his dad sent me this email, and he said, thank you, Lana, your Zoom meeting was just what he needed. We know there's no immediate result, but he now has hope. And let me ask you, have you ever felt like you didn't have hope because of your sleep? Can you imagine what that might feel like? Because that's what it felt like for me after 30 years of not sleeping through the night. The last few years was even harder struggle than usual. I stopped engaging in evening activities because I never knew if I could show up. I was late for work every day. I had twice as many sick days as the average employee because I couldn't sleep. I knew I would never get further in a management level in my work because I couldn't push myself hard enough to sleep. I feel like I don't have hope short term. Such young children going through sleep. Yeah. I just don't know what I can do about it. Well, I understand that. And there are things that I could probably give you some advice on as well. It's not part of this presentation specifically. But yeah, so like I had given up on different things in my life. I gave up social engagements. I gave up personal hobbies. I gave up so many things because I just couldn't manage anymore. But luckily for this client and for me, I found this new process that has cured my insomnia, and it cured his insomnia. And I will talk a little bit about that at the end here. But sleep and mental health are interrelated. Lack of sleep can be both a cause and consequence of mental health challenges. And research shows this sleep study actually by the American Psychological Association showed just getting less than 8 hours of sleep. So not even like the average insomniac's getting less than 6 hours of sleep. So, but just getting less than 8 hours of sleep makes you feel more irritable and angry and overwhelmed easily. You lack interest and motivation and energy. You lose your patience and yell at your kids. You're actually twice as likely to do that when you're not getting enough sleep. You skip exercise, you have increased stress. So these are challenging problems that we have because of our sleep. In fact, 50% of people with insomnia have depression, anxiety, or psychological stress. So another thing that happens when we can't sleep is we get extremely stressed and anxious about our sleep. So how many of you actually fear the alarm clock in the morning? You have trouble sleeping and you toss and turn and you do this. You look at the clock and you're like, oh, if I go to sleep right now, I get 5 hours and 32 minutes left. And then you toss and turn, you look at the clock and you're like, oh my God, if I go to sleep right now, this second, I'll get 4 hours and 55 minutes of sleep, right? We get afraid of the alarm clock. And even at night before we go to bed, we're like, oh my God, I got to wake up to the alarm clock. Have you ever done this? Toss and turn in bed, thinking, brain spinning out, and you're replaying a conversation from 6 years ago. I mean, I have, right? We had one client, she told me, I have imaginary arguments about situations that never have happened with people I don't even know in the middle of the night, right? We just like, our brain just does crazy stuff. I've experienced that. Sometimes replay the events that went well. Yeah, that happens, right? The monkey brain is, people, that's the biggest, most common thing I hear from my clients. If I could just shut down my brain, it'd be so much better. Have you ever done this? Sacrifice your career for an extra 8 minutes in bed. If I hit snooze one more time, I'll skip breakfast. If I hit snooze one more time, I won't shower. My hair goes in a ponytail. If I hit snooze one more time, I won't even shower. I'll just face cloth wash, right? Just constantly like just 5 more minutes, 5 more minutes, 5 more minutes. I actually used to feel like that those 9 minutes of the snooze were the best sleep ever, because I'd go right back to sleep immediately and start dreaming. And it was like those 9 minutes were so good. Of course, they weren't helpful. So I want to know how lack of sleep has been affecting your life. So we're going to go back to that menti.com website and put in this new code. And you can check off as many of these things as you want on what's been affected in your life from your sleep. And for those of you watching on the replay, just take note of this list of what's there and just think to yourself about how it's been affecting you. All right, got some answers. Almost one of everything. Weight gain, inability to lose weight. Actually, since I fixed my sleep, I have been able to lose 30 pounds because I've been able to have the energy to exercise, but also have the stamina to stick to something. Worried about increased health risk, reduced memory, worry about Alzheimer's or dementia. Yeah, so what happens at night when we sleep is our brain cells shrink slightly to allow more cerebral spinal fluid to flow through the brain, which removes toxins. And one that they have studied specifically is the protein that's the precursor to Alzheimer's. So, and memory is one of the things that affects me the most. So when I have a bad night of sleep because of stress or some other reason, that's the first thing that I notice. I'll be having a conversation like this, and all of a sudden I'll forget a word. And I'm like, what's the word for? And then I'll have to like describe the word for somebody to tell me what the word actually is. That's the first thing I notice that goes for me. And it's one of the things that I noticed significantly changed once I started sleeping through the night. Make poor decisions like getting takeout instead of cooking. I can't tell you how many times dinner was cheese, crackers, and fermented grapes, otherwise known as a bottle of red wine. Yeah. Unproductive, unmotivated, do things at home. Yeah, absolutely. Spend my days avoiding housework. All right. Okay. Well, this World Economic Forum survey found that from baby boomers to Gen Y or millennials, that people were averaging about 6.5 hours of sleep. And the 5 most common challenges were lacking energy, less likely to socialize, took longer to complete tasks, lost focus easily, had trouble motivating themselves. But respondents also noted increased stress, headaches, and a reduced sex drive. So step 2, especially for those of you who are maybe good sleepers, you don't have trouble going to sleep or staying asleep, but maybe are not giving yourself enough time to sleep, let's understand that sleep is affecting many areas of your life. So we want to make sure we're giving it a priority. And for those of you who may have a sleep disorder, that also includes getting that checked out. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that in a minute, because sleep is extremely important. So How do we prioritize sleep? Well, it starts with understanding how much sleep do you need. So first of all, sleep needs change with age, and we know it intuitively with kids, right? Newborn babies, they're sleeping all the time, except in the middle of the night when you want them to sleep, right? Toddlers, they need naps or they're grumpy and, terrible twos are the worst. Kids in school, they're going to bed 7, 8 o'clock at night. Now, teenagers, they're chronically tired because they start to engage in the bad behaviors that affect their sleep, right? They stay up too late. They start to experiment with drugs and alcohol. They maybe start drinking coffee, and they're grumpy and irritable. The other thing that happens with teenagers that makes them seem like they're more prone to having bad nights is their circadian rhythm actually shifts to be later. And there's some new research showing that, that their circadian rhythm is shifting, and some school divisions I know in the US have started scheduling start time for high school at 9 o'clock to accommodate this shift in their circadian rhythm. So that's just an interesting side note. But once we're in our middle age, 40s and 50s, we're down to about 7 hours of sleep, and seniors, 70 plus, getting only about 6.5 hours of sleep. Now, the most noted age-related change in sleep concerns the quality. We get less deep sleep as we age. So that means our sleep is more light, more easily disrupted, and more prone to waking at night. But the other thing to note is that our needs are genetic. So some people need less, like the jellyfish or Sir Richard Branson, who only gets 5 to 6 hours of sleep. Some need more, like the sloth or LeBron James, who sleeps 8 to 9 hours per night plus naps. He gets up to 12 hours of sleep in an average day. For most of us, we generally fall somewhere in the middle. Anywhere from 6 to 8 hours of sleep would be normal. What I want you to take away from this is that I don't want you to focus on the number of hours, right? When we think we have to get 8 hours of sleep per night, that adds to our stress and anxiety about our sleep. What I want you to consider is, how do you feel throughout the day? So if you need an alarm clock, or you need to hit snooze 15 times before you can get out of bed, and you're tired frequently in the afternoons, or fall asleep while watching TV or doing boring activities, or if you find yourself needing to catch up on sleep on the weekend, then you might not be getting enough sleep. Now, if your sleep is disrupted, like from insomnia, obviously it's not going to matter how many hours of sleep you get, you're still going to feel tired, because disrupted sleep does not feel good. So if you're a good sleeper and you're tired in the afternoon, you're falling asleep in that meeting, that boring meeting, you're trying to catch up on the weekend, you feel like you need a nap, then I would suggest for you good sleepers, try going to bed a little bit earlier during the week and see how that makes you feel. Now, the other thing we need to do is adjust maybe some of our habits. Just like that coffee that we drink in the afternoon to avoid falling asleep in that meeting can affect your sleep. There's some other habits that you might be engaging in that can also affect your sleep. So how many of you are like this? Gonna take a short nap, that'll boost my energy, and then you wake up 3 hours later and you're like, I feel groggy, right? Type in the chat 2 hours or nothing if that's you. Or say yes, 2 hours or nothing, that's me. Say yes if that's you. I'm not opposed to napping. I encourage my clients to take naps if they absolutely need it. But there are a couple parameters to follow. Oh, but first I want to tell you how that affects your sleep at night. During the day, we should be awake for about 16 hours, awake and active, and about 8 hours of downtime at night. Not necessarily sleeping, but downtime. During that 16 hours that we're awake, our brain builds up a sleep neurotransmitter called adenosine. And when we nap, we deplete that adenosine, which takes away your sleep drive, which is your ability to go to sleep and stay asleep. So when we nap, we have to make sure that we're following a few parameters to make sure that we're not depleting adenosine, and especially not too late in the day. So you want to take your naps before 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and you want to keep them to about 20 to 30 minutes of time. So how do you do that? I know a lot of people have struggled with being able to just take a 20-minute nap. And that part of that struggle is we forget that it can take us 10 to 15 minutes to fall asleep. So what you do is you set a timer for 45 minutes, allow yourself the 10 to 15 minutes to fall asleep without getting anxious about not falling asleep. And then when you wake up naturally, or when the alarm goes off, then you're awake. Most people, if you tell yourself it's going to be a 20-minute nap, you will wake up naturally and you will feel refreshed. And in fact, research shows just closing your eyes for 10 minutes without sleeping can boost your energy for up to 90 minutes. So if you feel like you're going to fall asleep in that meeting, instead of getting the coffee, if you don't want to do a little bit of physical activity, just closing your eyes for 10 minutes can help. I wake up in an hour, but take at least another 20 minutes to wake up mentally. Yeah, I don't bother, as I definitely won't wake up quick. I've tried this and it hasn't helped. Yeah. So yeah, if you're gonna sleep too long, I highly recommend you just avoid it. It's because it'll ruin your sleep for that night. So that's one thing you want to make sure you're paying attention to. All right, so the other thing I want to ask, this is another bad habit that people have, and that's sleeping in on the weekends. So we're going to go back to menti.com one more time. This is the last cert poll. I want to know how much later you wake up on the weekends compared to the work week. One to 2 hours, okay. To 2 hours, okay. I'll wait a little bit longer here for a few more responses. Guess nobody else wants to play. All right. Okay, so you've probably heard this before. Sticking to a regular schedule is extremely important. Well, here's why. Remember this from earlier. This is a circadian rhythm of somebody who's getting up around 6 a.m. Now, if you consider shifting this over 1 or 2 hours, look at the end of the cycle where we're dropping our energy and alertness level up to the 24 hours where we go to sleep at night. If you shift that over 1 or 2 hours, you're going to have difficulty going to sleep that night. So what happens on the weekend is we sleep in because we feel like we need more sleep, or because we stay up later, and then we stay up later because we're not ready to go to sleep yet. And Sunday night rolls around and we think, oh, I need to go to bed early because I got to get up early tomorrow, but our energy level is too high. We're not ready for bed yet. And then we get stressed and anxious, and tomorrow Monday is coming around and oh my God, the work week's going to suck. But all we've done is, it's not because we hate our job or that we're extra stressed about work. We've just shifted our circadian rhythm and we're just not ready for bed yet. Plus, what I said earlier about the 16 hours awake for adenosine to build up, we haven't built up enough adenosine. So your brain, your body, your circadian rhythm craves to be on schedule, to be in a routine. Your circadian rhythm, there are many processes that happen on a schedule, and that includes melatonin production, that includes digestion stops after sleep onset, that includes cortisol levels rising in the morning to help you get out of bed and dropping at night to help you go to sleep. All of that happens as part of the circadian rhythm. And this process of sleeping in at night is like giving yourself jet lag. So imagine traveling 2 time zones or even if you guys have the time change where you change the time, daylight savings to standard time, it's the same thing that happens, and you remember how that makes you feel. Well, you're doing the same thing every weekend. So that's why it's so important. Now, one of the things I do with my clients, because some of my clients, they have to get up pretty early in the morning during the week. So how do you get yourself out of bed in the morning on the weekend? Well, the best thing I can recommend is to have a morning activity that you absolutely love. So how many of you have tried to say, I'm going to get up earlier to exercise, and then you fall off the wagon a week or two later? Right? Type yes in the chat if you've ever done that, right? I have, on and off for years. Yes, right? Like, how many of you have tried that? Well, the reason why lasted 4 weeks. Yeah. The reason why you can't stick to it is because if you don't love exercise, you're not going to drag your butt out of bed when you're tired. You just aren't. You're like, oh, I'll do that another time. I'm too exhausted to think about that. What you do first thing in the morning, if it has to get you out of bed, it has to be something you absolutely love. So for me, I do all my personal development or business development reading and learning first thing in the morning because I love it. Absolutely love it. And when I wake up earlier than normal, I'm like, yahoo, I get to read more. I got more time to read. I'm so excited to read more. So if you have an activity that you love that will help you get out of bed on time so you can keep your schedule, that is really important to find that thing. And what I tell people is that if you're going to stay up late one night, you're much better off to get up on time the next day and have a little nap or go to bed a little bit earlier the next night than to sleep in. So you want to keep your schedule as close to normal as possible, both sides. So Bible study and prayer, yes. Do yoga every morning, good. Yeah, having that morning routine, and especially if you can give yourself even 15 minutes to do it during the week as well, so that every morning when you get up, it's part of that routine that you do, and it helps you get out of bed during the week as well as on the weekends. But what if you do have a sleep disorder? What do you do then? Because I can tell you, and I'm going to tell you in a minute, how some of these strategies, for those of you who have insomnia, are going to say, like, I've tried that already and it doesn't work. Well, first of all, if you think you might have sleep apnea, if you're snoring, you wake up with dry mouth or a sore throat, you wake up gasping, you have a morning headache, a loved one says to you, you stop breathing while you sleep, I can't stress enough how important it is that you go get tested. Sleep apnea is extremely hard on the heart, and it's good for so much better for your overall health to be tested for that and get that treated. Restless leg syndrome, like me, if you don't know what that is, that's an uncontrollable urge to move your legs. And when you try to control the motion, you get a pain sensation. So people describe it differently. It could be an itching or a tingling. For me, I get a burning sensation in my thighs. And the only way to alleviate the pain is to move. And it gets worse with fatigue. So for me, it gets really bad if I'm tired and I can't sleep. Like if I'm ready, trying not to fall asleep for whatever reason, it gets really bad and my legs just go crazy. One of the things I do to help with that is I will do leg exercises. So I'll do squats and high knees and kickbacks, and just a couple of minutes of that usually will calm them down enough for me to relax. Narcolepsy, circadian rhythm disorders. Narcolepsy, of course, is really tired all the day, falling asleep randomly throughout the day. Parasomnia is like sleepwalking, sleep talking. Circadian rhythm disorders, that's having your days and nights backwards, is a circadian rhythm disorder. If you think you might have any of those, like definitely, please just go get it checked out. It doesn't hurt to ask to see what's going on. Now, if you do have insomnia, the thing is, a lot of people are afraid to go to the doctor because the old way of treating insomnia was to just get a prescription from the doctor, just like me, right? And I understand why people are afraid of that. I mean, prescription pills have serious side effects. There was a study of over 1 million people that found taking sleeping pills every day gave you a 25% increased risk of mortality versus not taking them at all. That's the same as smoking a pack of cigarettes a day. They're only moderately effective. Right? They only increase total sleep time by maybe an hour. So you're taking a lot of risk for only an hour extra of sleep. But they also stop working over time. You have to keep increasing your dose. The worst part, though, is they undermine self-efficacy. So that means you lack trusting yourself and your ability to sleep. You feel like the only way you can sleep is by taking the pills. Now, melatonin is not a sleep inducer, so its job is to regulate your sleep cycle. It's not meant to put you to sleep. And in fact, melatonin production begins as soon as the sun sets. So depending on where you live in the world, like this time of year where I live, the sun doesn't set till 10 o'clock at night. So, you know, I have much more energy through the evening, but in the winter when the sun sets at 5, I'm, you know, getting tired by 8, 9 o'clock. I'm like, okay, it's bedtime. Sleep hygiene habits. So some of the things that I've just talked about, these habits, having a cool, dark room, turning off your devices, all of those things, they help improve good sleep. So if you're already sleeping through the night, these good sleep hygiene habits are really good for you to implement to help improve the quality of your sleep. But if you have insomnia, they don't help you. And the reason is because insomnia has been proved to be a psychological problem. It is a learned behavior. It's no longer considered a physiological problem. And that was since 2016. 30 years of scientific research has now found a strategy, a process that has become the gold standard in treating it around the world. And that's called cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia specifically. And it's scientifically proven, it's clinically tested, and that's why it's become this new treatment option. And it involves sleep education. So some of the things I've shared with you tonight about adenosine and how much sleep you need and various things like that, understanding how sleep works, why things are happening, why you're having trouble sleeping, why you keep waking up at the same time every night. There's tactical sleep strategies to implement at night and stress reduction and relaxation techniques. Like I said, stress is the #1 reason people can't sleep. The #1 complaint I have for my clients, they can't shut their brain off at night. So learning some strategies on how to fix that. So one more client success story. My client Kristen was like a lot of my clients. She had trouble sleeping 2 or 3 times a week. She would be awake anywhere from 1 to 3 hours. And she had a lot of anxiety about her sleep, how it was affecting her health, her work, her personal life. And during her initial consult with me, she's like, I have too much brain. Too much brain happening. She said she tried everything that was part of the old way, and she listed off every sleep hygiene hack that you can find on the internet. And she was very skeptical about working with me. She was like, you know, what do I do when this doesn't work? If I work with you and this doesn't work, what's my next step? Like there's nothing after that. But, you know, she did obviously take the chance with me. And during her last session with me, she cried. She was so happy with how she was sleeping and how she was feeling and how confident she felt that she literally cried on the phone with me. And it didn't take long. In 5 weeks, she was sleeping better. So step 3, let's create good habits so you can get the sleep you need, and then ask for help. Go find out what's wrong, why you're not sleeping, and get the help you need. Because we all want to have a date with our bed tonight, right? We totally want to sleep together. Let's sleep together. Okay, so how many of you, before I wrap up, I have one more tip at the end here. How many of you feel like you've gained something valuable today? You've learned something that you can implement. You can, yeah, I see a few hands, type yes. Okay, so thank you so much. I really would appreciate your feedback. I have a survey. It's only going to take you a couple of minutes. When you finish the survey, I'm going to give you a copy of my daily stressors exercise. And it's something that I use with my clients to help them reduce their stress and anxiety every day. So you can scan this QR code or type this link in your browser. I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to fill it out. It's just really super quick. It is my mission to share good sleep information with people. And I want to know what I should keep in my presentation, what I could do more of, what I could do less of. So I really want to know your feedback. And when you're done, just type done in the chat so I know. I can get the last tip completed. Great. Thank you, Charlene. Okay, so most people done, I think. I'm going to take you to my last sleep tip for you. And everybody knows exercise is good for sleep, right? Well, exercise doesn't mean, 2 hours in the gym or lifting heavy, just simple 20 to 30 minutes every other day can improve your sleep. So this research study had 55 to 75-year-olds who had insomnia. They did 20 to 30 minutes of light activities, low impact exercise, whether that was walking, biking, low impact aerobics, every other day. They reduced their time to go to sleep by half and increased total sleep time by 1 hour. Now this helps you sleep because your brain makes up for physical stress, so exercise, by increasing deep sleep, because deep sleep is when our body heals itself. And it improves your daytime mood and reduces tension, so it makes you feel better during the day, so you feel less stressed and anxious throughout the day about everything, including sleep. Now, one other thing about exercise that you don't hear very often is that you also need to exercise your brain. Boredom is a sleep killer. So you want to make sure you're doing something mentally stimulating as well every day. The more mentally stimulating it is, the more your brain needs to sleep, because it's your brain that's actually affected the most by your lack of sleep. Physically, your body, it takes years and decades of bad sleep before your body physically starts to break down because of it. But your brain can be affected in just one night. All right, so thank you all so very much for having me today. Here is my contact information. I'm going to pop a link in the chat as well, which you can open up. My contacts are all there. There's also extra free resources that you can get through that link. And I'd be happy to chat with anybody at any time if you have any questions. Feel free to pop any new questions in the chat. I'll be happy to answer those as well. So thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Lana. That was so informative, packed full of amazing value and definitely great reminders as well, because some of these things I feel like a lot of us know what serves us well, but we often let go of those things very easily, a bit too easily, and we forget what's more important and what is going to help us. So some things serve as a great reminder, and some things have really served me personally as great action steps to implement as new things. I really loved what you said about in the morning, like I've always tried things and it hasn't always stuck, but you're right, I've tried things that I've thought would be good to do, but not necessarily things that I love doing. So from a motivation point of view, to actually do them, like things like exercising or yoga, you're absolutely right. I enjoy doing them and I love the way that my body feels after it, but the process of actually doing them, I feel like, oh God, okay, let's do this again. And that's never going to motivate me to get out of bed. But like you said, reading a great book probably would. So I'm going to give that one a go for sure.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. The other thing too about that morning routine is that your circadian rhythm is actually genetic. So the time you naturally want to wake up or go to bed at night is actually genetic. Now, if you want to, you can shift that, but it takes a very concerted effort of doing it every day. And it requires you to change several things throughout the day until you get used to it, like what time you eat. For example, if you normally eat an hour after waking up, and now you're trying to wake up an hour earlier, well, now you got to eat an hour earlier. And that means you'll probably eat lunch earlier, and that means you'll probably eat dinner earlier, and then you need to go to bed earlier. And so, but it's like a very concerted effort of weeks to do that.
That's so interesting. So it's pretty much a lifestyle change, right? Just because we often think about it as one thing. Okay, I'll tackle the sleep timing first and then I'll do the other things, but actually it all needs to work in harmony. So yeah, really interesting. Thank you. I'm going to open the floor up to any questions. If there are any questions, please go ahead and ask. I know it's slightly over time on this, but it's important to get questions answered. So if anybody has questions, put your hand up, get yourself off mute, ask away.
How dangerous, Lana, is sleep apnea?
Sleep, how dangerous is it? That I can't really answer that question. for sure, because I don't know enough about it, but I do know it does stopping breathing. I mean, depends on how much that's happening, right? I've heard of people that stop breathing like every 5 seconds, like it's crazy. But yeah, it does affect the heart. So that's why I tell people it's so important to get it checked out if you think that might be a problem.
Because that's one thing, if I realize it's happening, I stay awake to nudge, to give him the nudge, you know, to bring back that rhythm.
Yeah, and I know people are, some people don't want to get tested because they don't want the big mask and they feel all awkward about it, but really there are other options available. And I do have a contact in the US, Carol, of somebody who worked in a sleep apnea clinic for a really long, thanks Charlene, that she worked in a sleep clinic for a really long time. And she said that she found that clients weren't given very much information about their diagnosis or their options. And so she's meets with people specifically to talk about that. So I could give that to you if you wanted.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that's my main concern. Because I notice that it happens more when he's really tired.
Just off the back of what Carol's just asked, actually, with sleep apnea, is it possible that sleep apnea happens as a result of too much weight gain? Because I know you spoke about like struggling to shift weight. So could the two of them be linked? And could it also show up in the form of somebody sleeping too much but still living those symptoms of, the holding their breath or the excessive snoring and the holding their breath and all of those kind of things? Can those be linked?
Yeah, so weight gain is connected to, can be connected, I shouldn't say is, can be connected to both. And I've heard of people who have lost weight and improved their ability to breathe. Breathe at night naturally. Yeah, and part of what happens, like especially with snoring, is like their throat collapses at night. And that's why most people snore when they're on their back, is because their throat is collapsing, right? So there's like pillows that you can get out there that keep you from rolling onto your back. That's like an option. There's like dental appliances that you can try to keep your tongue forward. And there's various options available.
My neighbour's got some sort of mask to wear at sleep time.
Sorry?
My neighbour, she suffers with sleep apnea, but she's got a little mask type gadget to go to sleep with. I mean, I don't know all the ins and outs of it, but she got it from the research going back to doctors and hospital and whatever. That she was given that from the hospital to wear every night.
Yeah. That's the most common treatment for sleep apnea. It's called a CPAP. It's
that's it.
It pressurizes so if you stop breathing, it actually causes a pressure release to keep you breathing. Yeah.
What if someone's asthmatic?
I don't know the answer to that question.
I'm just thinking of having something on the face when you have that issue.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that, Carol. I'm not an expert in sleep apnea, so I can't answer that. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions?
All I'm going to say is thank you very much, Lana. Thank you very much, ladies. And I'm going to say good night to you all.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for
thanks,
coming. Yeah, it was lovely.
Darling. See you later.
Thanks, Brandy. Yes, I think on that note, if we don't have any more questions, I think it is time that we close. So thank you so much, Lana, for your expertise and teaching us all amazing things and giving us great tips. And yes, over to Ritu for the last final words.
What else can I say? With a big thank you to Lana for such an informative, time that she spent with us. I did not know half of this. Anytime anybody said to me, I can't sleep, from what I know, I put it down to stress, anxiety, or you're not trying hard enough. Make sure you put your phone away, the little simple things that you can think of generically. But hearing a specialist out and understanding that it actually is a real problem with many people, I think I'm going to look into this more seriously now. But thank you so much. It was very informative, and I'm sure it's very hopeful as well for people who may need help to hear you speak about this and know that there are alternatives, there are methods and ways of tackling it and having a better, more energetic life. So thank you so much, Lana, for coming to Kaushalya UK tonight. And thank you, Zina, for organizing this for us. And thank you to everybody who's joined us tonight and decided to spend their valuable time with us. Have a good night, everyone, or a good day wherever you are in the world. Thank you, Lana. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye for now. Bye.